Hi guys, what's up? Welcome back to the I Love You So Much YouTube channel. If you guys like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and let's get started with the episode. Hello.
Hi, babes.
I'm so glad you're here today. Just like, what a good way to start off my morning, you know, being selfish.
Oh, yay. Thank you. Except I was a little tardy to the party.
Oh my God, tardy
Puppy
to the party.
problems.
Wait, that's so funny. I'm going to start using that. No, you were good. I want you to give a little bit of a backstory. I normally don't have guests do this, but you have a very unique one and I don't want to mess it up. So can you give us a little bit of a backstory?
Of my whole,
Yeah.
of which piece?
Everything.
Sure.
I mean, everything.
Okay, of course. So I'm Jocelyn Reid, and I'm an intuitive business and abundance coach and feminine energy healer. And I really help women step into their purpose, into their money, into their pleasure, and their life from this place of like juiciness, yummy overflow. And I became really passionate about doing this work, basically to help like good-hearted women make money doing what they love. And even for women who don't have businesses, just like really learn how to manifest and receive more out of life because of the challenges that I created, especially during my Saturn return. So I'm 38 now, and your Saturn return is basically, I think it's like 29 to 31, and mine was a shit show. So
Really?
yeah, my story is like, I was the girl who was like doing the things that you're supposed to do, right? Like I went to a good school, I got a good job in finance, I had a boyfriend. Like from the outside, things looked like, okay, everything's moving and grooving. And I always had this feeling inside, and probably a lot of your listeners have had this too, where you're like, something is off and I don't know what it is. But I wasn't in touch with it at all. And at that time I lived in San Francisco, and then ultimately I just kept getting pulled to Los Angeles, and I moved to LA, and I quit my job in finance, which was a really big deal for me at the time because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I didn't know anything. You know, when you just like, you just get the pull and you just jump off the bridge. You have no idea what's going to happen. And when I got to LA, it was like my whole life crumbled. And it was very high drama. And all of my trauma that I didn't even know I had, I didn't even know what trauma was, like came to the surface. I was in a super codependent, up and down like relationship. I had this crazy psychic awakening that I wouldn't wish on anyone. I was literally like hearing voices. I was basically emotionally addicted to this guy that I was dating. I was having premonition dreams about what he was going to do before he would. This went on for years, and
Wow.
all the things would happen up to him being engaged to the woman that he's either engaged to or married now.
Wow.
Which happened maybe, I don't know, I don't talk to him, but like I think they got engaged in the past couple of years. I moved out of LA in 2017. So I had that dream like years before.
Did you know the girl?
No.
That's so crazy.
I mean, it was wild. And I would sometimes wake up and hear like voices, like just me being directed forward. I was hearing things that were like way too far away. Like I knew I shouldn't be able to hear them outside. Just crazy stuff was happening. And I was just like very codependent. I basically became like addicted to psychics because I was so addicted to him and like all that kind of drama. And then it basically, I landed in a health crisis. I had fibroids and I had to have surgery. And that really brought me to my knees. Because, you know, this whole thing went on for like 5 years of me just like being in this space. It almost felt like, I feel like the way that I was operating was almost the way that some people get addicted to substances. I was like addicted. I had like emotional addictions. Like it was like really, really intense codependency, but I hadn't really experienced it before. So it was wild. So anyway, once I got sick and I really made I was like, something is wrong. This doesn't make sense. I'm not someone who's sick all the time. How do I have these crazy fibroids? I'm having surgery. Like it just felt like everything came crashing down at once. And I looked up the spiritual meaning, and I wasn't spiritual at all at this time. So I was like, I really had no idea what was happening. Whereas now I would know a lot better that it was like an awakening, and I was really out of alignment with like my soul's purpose and my soul's truth. And that was the universe being like, hey, knock, knock, wake up. And I looked up the spiritual meaning of fibroids by Louise Hay. Do you know who she is?
No. Well, I've heard the name.
So she became like famous for like manifestation, and she healed her own cancer through like her affirmations and her spiritual practice and doing natural things.
That's how I know who that is.
Yeah. So, and the spiritual reason for fibroids was romantic shame. And I was like, well, of course. I spent the past 5 years doing what I've been doing, like completely abandoning myself. And it really started me on my journey. And I really wanted to move to New York. And I just made a decision in that moment. I was like, I'm not going to get another job in LA when this is over. Like, I just had to move. And it did not look financially possible at that time. And I basically like manifested the money to move to New York, got my dream apartment. And when I took my last job, when I did get a job here, I was like, this is it. And like I didn't know what I wanted to do though. I just knew, you just have you have feelings long before you have facts,
Yeah.
And I just knew that was it. And I just started going down the road of healing. I learned a lot about manifestation and actually like creating my life. And ultimately it led me to my business. And originally I was helping women create the lives that they desire. And then, I had like 15 years of sales and marketing experience across all the jobs that I had. I'm naturally good at business. So that went into business coaching. And then there was just so much of like beyond the business, this kind of like internal side of the work. I started making money really fast. I'm like, okay, well, something's happening here. This isn't really quote unquote normal for the coaching space for this to be happening so quickly. And so much of the reason for that, in addition to like running a smart business, et cetera, was just like the inside piece of the work. And I started really focusing more on like feminine energetics and our internal healing and releasing trauma. And just exploring like what we as women pick up like from our own family line, from the trauma from this lifetime, literally from our past lifetimes. I started having like past life visions for myself and with clients. Like our intuition has been very turned off. Obviously there were like witches were burned at the stake centuries ago, but we all have like deep access to that information. And when we allow ourselves to really like kind of like turn back on everything that's been suppressed, no matter like where the suppression took place within our own lifetimes, our lineage, we become a lot more magnetic. And like by that, I mean, we're able to attract what it is that we want with a lot of ease because we don't have the like subconscious and energetic like resistance to what we want or like thinking we can't have it or I'm not good enough or whatever. Like as you start to unravel the things that don't belong to you, your soul comes forward so much more. And so that you living in alignment with what you want starts to feel obvious. So when it starts to feel obvious, it's like, well, of course I have it,
I have so many questions. I'm so
Okay.
interested. I want to start, I think, a little bit with manifesting. So
Yeah.
my background with manifesting, I'm not like crazy experienced or anything like that. More so like making lists or like a vision board and things like that.
Yeah.
Actually crazy. Obviously I'm in New York right now. I was at a party last night, and last week I was thinking like, it's so crazy how many things, one of my best friends and I like made a whole board, like a bunch of lists, things that we wanted to do. I'm also like a very goal-oriented person, so I've always done this stuff, but we were being a little bit more like journaling, taking it like a little bit more seriously.
Like being intentional with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I last week was thinking like, oh my God, so many of these things have happened that would have genuinely felt crazy 4 or 5 months ago,
Yeah.
especially career-wise. And then last night, the craziest thing, like there was a huge thing that I had on there that was kind of like, I mean, I don't know how this would ever happen.
Yeah.
But I got an email offer for it, and it was even more personalized to me. Like even
Yeah.
like crazier like situation. I was like, okay, this stuff is like actually wild.
It works.
Yes, it definitely works. And I wasn't like skeptical that it didn't really work before.
Yeah.
I think it was just like a little bit more intentional. But I just want to know like from your perspective, because before we started this recording, I'm like, this is basically like manifesting almost for like dummies. But not that anyone's a dummy here, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So from your perspective, like what is the best way to get into manifesting, and how would you really explain it to a beginner?
Sure. So I feel like step one, and this is sometimes, it seems obvious, but it's actually being willing to claim what we actually desire. So I'm assuming most of your listeners women?
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of women have a lot of like kind of like good girl programming, right? Like quiet down, don't rock the boat. You have so much more than Sally next door. You should just be grateful. Da 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 da. Like this is very normal. And so we've really been programmed by society to like basically like accept what we're given, you know, and that even if we're not consciously doing it, we like if you really look at yourself, we'll be doing it in certain areas. And so, but the first step is to just allow yourself to want what you want, right? And to have desires and to not have those desires be based on, like I always say, like where you start is no indication of where you finish, right? We've heard all the rags to riches stories. Then we probably, you know, all the trust fund babies who can't get their shit together. You know?
Very true.
So,
very true. Especially
not all of them.
Not all of them, but especially I lived in LA for a bit, and yes, it's very true.
So it's not about where you start, but you have to let yourself have these big desires, because when you put your desire in your motion, right? When you put what you want on the vision board, when you put what you want on the list, and then it's like you're telling the universe like the direction to go, right? So I think about the universe or the energy that's like kind of bigger than us, right? We kind of believe in something, whether it be God, the universe, angels, your spirit guides, whatever vibes with you, that like it needs direction from you, right? We're not puppet masters where it's like the universe is like, no, she's going to do this and then she's going to do this. The universe is responding to your desires, right? So you put the desire in motion, you say what it is, you put it on the vision board, you write the list, etc. And then you get to, so usually what we want is like at another frequency or at another level than where we are, what we have. We always want more, we don't want less. And the way that I like to explain like frequency is, especially because I teach about money a lot, it's like, okay, you know how you feel when you go stay, I don't know, if you stay at a 3-star restaurant, hotel versus how you feel if you stay at a 5-star hotel. That difference in feeling is a frequency difference, right? The way it feels to fly first class versus being in the back of coach.
So true.
That's a frequency difference. So usually what you want is at a higher frequency. And so there can be, so amazing, like you set that in motion. And then sometimes, a lot of times what comes up is all the things that make us believe that it's not possible or that it can't happen. And sometimes they don't belong to us. So for example, let's say someone's calling in a lot more money. They're like, I don't know, I want to make $1 million this year, but they have a relative or their parent became really successful and then lost it all. Became really successful, then went into bankruptcy. You can have like a subconscious program running in your brain that's like, oh, no. If I have a lot of money, I'm going to lose things. Right? So you start exploring like what makes you feel like you can't have what you want. And then you're like, you know, you show yourself that's not really true. And then I believe in really like allowing yourself to like incrementally move towards what you desire, right? So let's say it's in the space of wealth. It's like, okay, well, let yourself like go stay at the slightly nicer hotel than you usually would. Let yourself buy the nicer clothes, like upgrade the home that you're already in. Like you want to slowly move into, because a lot of times people wait and they feel stuck. And I'm like, no, you're in the driver's seat, but you got to start moving towards what you want. And then you're normalizing it for yourself, right? Like you start just upping your standards, those become normal. It becomes way more feasible to get to the next level, et cetera. And then you ultimately just start, like the energy compounds. It's like you start feeling like you can have things. They're totally like doable. Of course, stuff comes in and catches us by surprise. But you also start to get into this place of like, oh my God, I can't believe it's happened. But also like, of course, you know, like that does start to happen over time. And then ultimately, it's like you've been in energy and you've been in action towards what you want. Like obviously you're very driven. You're very focused on your career. Like it's a place where you're really strong. So it's not surprising to me that when you write a list of big things, you stay in motion, you stay in alignment, right? Like this is so important to you. Of course it came in. You're not letting yourself play small here, you know?
Well, what's interesting, okay, something I was going to bring up, I'm like an Enneagram 3.
Me too.
Okay, not surprising. Every woman around me is an Enneagram 3. So if you guys don't know what that means, it's like the overachiever. I'm a very naturally driven person. I'm very disciplined. I love working. I love living life, and I love essentially doing the most that I can possibly do. Doing the most. Yeah. But I do notice career-wise, which is also interesting because I'm in a very odd career choice. I moved out when I was 17. I've always done the different thing. I've always taken chances on myself. I've always believed in myself. But I feel like there is a block for me. Like, it's almost like only to like this like to a certain level. Like I will look around and I'm unbelievably grateful, obviously, for what I have.
Of course.
But I do notice myself thinking like, well, that's for them. It's not for me. But it's weird because if you know me, like when I tell my friends that, they're like, what are you talking about? Because I'm definitely the most like, I think confident career-wise probably. But I do notice that I have like blocks and I've been trying to work on it. And I don't really necessarily know how to fix it. And I've been thinking like family-wise, like where does it come from? And I honestly can't like pinpoint where it is necessarily coming from. Like I don't know what to do.
Yeah. But this is normal, right? So this is normal, right? And this is why I actually really love, I mean, there's so many different ways to kind of like unravel. There's obviously a lot of different means for like accessing your trauma. People get really into breath work or EMDR, et cetera. I really love kind of like the energetic and embodiment work. And it can sound a little intangible. I always say that like I'm a modern day medicine woman because things just channel through me around how to help people. Like, but a lot of times for women, we have, this part's for all people. So we have like an upper limit, right? How much joy you can have. So sometimes people hit the upper limit and then they start sabotaging, right? Like they'll make a lot of money in their business and then all of a sudden they start dipping.
Can the upper limit like move?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So you want to do the work so one, there's just having the awareness. Like what you're probably up against is like, okay, I'm here. This is amazing. But like, I'm here to be, you know, Oprah famous, whatever. And well, not like her, but you know what I mean? You want really big impact, but it's like, you may have hit like some upper limit of receiving and receiving good things. So, you know, as women, the way that like we want to feel. So even though you're driven, you like to get things done, etc. When you're a feminine core woman, meaning like the way you know is sort of like, okay, in dating, like are you the one who like likes to be taken care of, looked after, etc.? Most women.
Yes, but I think yes.
Okay, well, without the trauma.
Yeah, I was like, but yeah.
At your core, what you want deep down, right? Most of us are that way. Me, or like when we're around masculine energy, it's really safe. It's like we're just gonna like sink in and be
so
soft.
calming.
It's so calming. Okay, you are a feminine core woman. So we always want life to feel like an exhale, you know? And most of the desires that we have, I always teach this way, that they're masculine in nature because of how it feels to have them. It feels stable. It still feels supportive. Even having money, right, feels stable and supportive. Being in the right relationship, it feels stable, supportive. Having this delicious home that you love feels stable, supportive. Even like, so we, you know, being at a whole other like career level, it can like, of course, it feels like there's risk and like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna see more people, etc. But at the end, but for your soul, when your soul wants that, it actually feels stable and supportive because it feels right. You know, so then if most of our desires feel that way, it's like, we have to learn how to receive so much more. And we can have a lot of kind of, you know, I like pleasure-based work, womb healing. We do a lot of like energetic work, like it could be something from your past life. Mm-hmm. Literally. Like I discovered I had like a big like betrayal wound in my past life. So I was sort of like, how it was showing up for me was, it wasn't like I was actually being betrayed at this point in my life, although I was when I was younger. It was like I was expecting to be. And I kept being like, why do I keep like looking for something to happen here? You know, like it was just this weird energy. And I really like to like keep the energy clean. So if anything weird is showing up for me, I'm like, what is this? Right? And so you can do the work, or right, this is what I help people to even like, you can start to feel, even if you, because sometimes we get a little like, but I'm not that psychic. How am I going to see these things? But it's like you get walked into the process and like I used to not see them. It just turns on. And like you will be able to see for yourself what happened. Or even if you can't see it clearly, like you'll feel this energy come up. And once the energy is able to be felt and acknowledged and moved, right? It's sort of like when we have big feelings, a lot of times we try to push them down. We're like, oh my God, I don't want to deal with this. Mm-hmm. But it's like if you actually allow yourself to like feel and allow the energy to move, it's able to leave. Because all of our feelings of discomfort, anxiety, depression, etc., it's just unprocessed emotions from when we were younger or things that happen. So when we allow them space, they get to leave, right? So when they leave, we have more room and we're not like carrying around the story that emotion or experience was creating. And then you're way more free to call in more. And then things just start happening like, or like women, we have a lot of trauma in our womb. Like I know I mentioned the womb earlier, but we actually, there's even been science, like our trauma gets passed down through DNA from our families. It goes back like 7 lineages. There's this book called It Didn't Start With You that kind of explains generational trauma. Yeah. Do you know that one?
I haven't read it, but it's on my list.
Yeah. So imagine like as we're birthed, right? We're like going from one womb to another womb to another room to another room. And ways that we can address our womb space are like a lot of pleasure-based work, like yoni eggs, cervix wands, cervix dearmoring, like just a lot of healing that we haven't, like it feels normal for me in my spaces, like in the feminine energy spaces, the women I know who do this. But when we go into the client world, I'm like, oh my gosh, no one's done this before. And most women have sexual trauma. 1 in 3 women have sexual trauma. Yeah. That's a lot of us. So we actually have to like bring healing to that part of our bodies in order to feel safe. And then when we go back to receiving masculine energy, that can be men, that can be money, right? So we want to create like release the trauma and stored emotions and stuck energy to create space and like feelings of safety within our body and our being in our feminine. And then also just like with receiving more.
When you talk about different like healing, you talk about like pleasure and you listed off a bunch of other ones. Can you kind of go through what those are?
What they all are?
Yes. Or like maybe you're like top 5. I know there's probably a lot.
Yeah, so
not all of them.
And everyone's different. So my favorites are breast massage. And it's so funny. It's like we don't even you don't realize how little you touch your own body.
Yeah.
Right? But like I always teach about you think you do because you're getting ready or you're putting on lotion. But until you really slow down and do, you're like, oh, I haven't been. So I talk about like the body as a portal of manifestation. You know that vibe when, I don't know, you see a beautiful woman walking down the street and she just has like so much sensual energy, right? So her life force energy is very turned on, right? And it's just like emanating from her pores. And you feel that in people. Like even when you talk to them where you're just like, oh, they're so alive, they're so bright, right? That's life force energy. That energy is like what attracts things to us. So I really like, especially as a woman, like breast massage. One, your breasts are like so connected to your heart space. And a lot of times what happens when we're hurt or things happen, we kind of are like slowly closing down our heart space. So breast massage, one, just helps you feel more like intimacy and safety within your body. The safer you feel in your own body and in your personal experience, the more you're going to call in. And also, I mean, of course, too, there's these stories of people who get, I don't know, famous really fast, yada, yada, yada. But a lot of them end in like destruction and craziness. So we're also talking about expanding your nervous system to where as you arrive at these new levels, you feel stable and you don't create some chaotic event in your life because you can't handle it. Your nervous system can't handle it, So I love breast massage for like just expanding the heart space, creating more safety in the body. Cervix dearmoring. I mean, have you seen like those crystal wands before? Like there's this Australian brand called Yoni Palace. You guys can check it out. But you use those. I mean, people use them for pleasure, but also for cervix dearmoring. So it's basically like if you've ever been led through a breathwork practice or something, a similar journey, but it's more like body-based, and you use the wand to basically, it's like touching your cervix and just exploring within, the inside of your body. And people have really different experiences. Like sometimes women will feel numbness. Sometimes they feel pleasure. Sometimes it hurts, right? But it's like that level of intimacy, but it creates this physical release from within. And it's interesting, like I've done it before and then like I'll get my period the next day. So I know, right, that there's a release. Or I remember the first time I was taken through it by one of my coaches, like the internet went out. I was like, what? Because I was like, is this working? And then it was like, boom, and the internet was gone. And Spectrum was like, there's no issues with your internet. Yeah. I'm like, it just went out. Or like I'll make a lot of money the next day. It's like it can feel intangible, but it gets you so much more in touch with yourself. I also love breath work. a lot more people have probably done breath work. I don't really like Wim Hof. I've experienced more like rebirthing breath work. And there's another one. It's more like where rebirthing is in and out through your nose. And then there's another one that's just in and out through your mouth. But you're not doing that really intense, like 3-part one. Yeah. It's like a little too much for me. I find that really helpful. I take my clients through a lot of like guided visualization journeys, which is sort of comparable to hypnosis. So taking you so deep in that like you're able to experience your past life, or like you go down the timeline of your own actual lifetime. Sometimes we forget what we don't even know. We were so young, and then you're in such a relaxed state that it comes forward, and then it's sort of like you get to release whatever happened, or say what you want to say while you're in there that you didn't get to say. Whatever work needs to be done. I really like that kind of journey. Those are probably my favorites. Is that helpful?
Yes, that's very helpful. I want to talk about manifesting wealth.
Yeah.
You have a crazy story.
I do.
I was reading about this. Can you share a little bit on manifesting wealth?
Sure. So when I started my business, because I said during my summer return I'd created a disaster. So I basically had nearly 6 figures in tax debt.
Which that is, there is no anxiety. I was also listening to another interviewer and talking about this.
Yeah.
There is no anxiety like that anxiety.
None.
Oh my God. My taxes got messed up and it wasn't even my fault. And I did end up owing, and it was a lot, but it wasn't 6 figures.
Yeah.
And I have never felt worse than I did that day. Yeah.
And at the time, remember, so I didn't even have the income coming in. I had come from a situation of making a lot of money. I was in emotional destruction. So I basically took all my money out of my investment portfolios, didn't put enough aside for taxes, and was just not with it at all because of what was going on in my life. And that's how we got there. And so, the anxiety that it creates is money trauma is real.
It's really unmatched.
Money trauma is so real and so deep. So then it was pretty wild because I started my business, did the things, moved forward anyway. And I was like, well, I have to invest in myself. I have to continue to heal. I have to grow. This has to be successful. We're doing it. And then I had my first 100K revenue month, my second year in business, and it's just pretty wild to go from nearly 6 figures in debt to, 6-figure months inside of 2 years. But money, it's actually, human design?
Yes, I need to figure out what I am, but yeah. Do you know who Helen Hall is?
No.
She's like Blender Bomb. She's great, but she's very into this.
Into human design. So it's actually in my human design chart. I have the money gate or the whatever it is. I'm literally on the planet to teach women about money and manifestation and magic and creating your life in these alternative ways. So I'm also just fascinated with money, and so I just set about it was I would just move forward as I felt called, whether it was who I was hiring, what I was launching, how I was building the business, just really following my intuition. And then as I created more and more success, and also I know it just sounds kind of crazy, but because everything channels through me, I would start doing certain practices. I got into the goddess Lakshmi. She's the Hindu goddess of abundance. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start a 40-day chant to her. Then I had read about these are very simple things, but there's this manifestation practice where you write down what you desire. So let's say I'm okay, I'm calling in $100,000 by the end of May 2022. You write it down 33 times, 3 days in a row. And of course that can sound well, what's that doing? But I started doing that, and then I would do Lakshmi. Then I would record some hypnosis that I was doing for my clients about wealth and releasing our patterns, and I would do that too. And I just started pulling together all these things, and I started to see that I was creating a lot of money. And those are entry level things. Obviously we go a lot deeper in my work, but I really went about increasing my income with intention. I've never just been oh, we'll just see what happens. I'm no, right now I'm aligning to 30K months. Okay, I'm aligning to 50K months. Okay, I'm aligning to 100K months. So, and then I'm just led to get there. And then I basically kind of reverse engineer it and teach it. But a lot of the work has been spiritual. Yeah, of course you need to, if you're, let's say, have a business, you have to make good business decisions. And obviously I help people with that too. But a lot of it's spiritual and energetic.
So if someone is listening to this podcast and they're wanting to start their journey of manifesting wealth, where should they start?
In life?
Yes. I'm like, that's a big question, but
It's a big question. That's okay. Well, I have, of course, Money Queen. You can start there. That one's amazing. But also, I would be deciding what you want, like we talked about, and then immediately look at what gets in the way. Okay, so do you have a feeling in your body, right? Like, I used to feel like I would get like tight in my chest, right? Or some of us get stomach aches. Or as soon as you say what you want, like write it down, put it on the vision board. Love those things. See, observe yourself out in the world. Like so much of this work is learning to be a very masterful observer of yourself. So I always say it's like you almost want to imagine like you're trying to get to Rome, and instead of being you on the planet Earth, knocking around, figuring it out, like not aware of yourself, it's almost like you're in the plane looking down at yourself, being like, oh, you just need to navigate this way, and it's right here, right? So a lot of how we get there is learning how to observe our patterns. So so you said you want X, money, let's say, and then how do you feel about other wealthy people? How do you respond when a woman who has more than you walks in the room, right? How do you feel when you go in the super nice hotel? How do you respond to money in all these different ways? When you see someone else make a lot of money, what comes up for you? Right? So, because a lot of times we get into comparison and not enoughness, or like she can do it, but I can't do it, right? And so then you just want to start like, I mean, you can even journal about it and just like let it out. Like I used to do these like money morning pages. You know that book? What's that book? The Artist's Way. And she teaches about doing morning pages. So
I love morning pages.
I used to do it just about money.
Okay,
I don't really do it. Now I'm more like, a lot more stable, but I would do it about money. Like wake up, because you know that anxiety you're talking about, it's on your mind every day. That's not helpful. So it's like I would wake up and write out like all the like BS that was coming up for me around money instead of letting it loop in my head over and over and over. So then these beliefs, right, that we're carrying, that we can't do it, she can do it, I can't do it, rich people are bad. A lot of people think poorly of rich people because they see celebrities and politicians move in ways that they don't like. And I'm like, the common denominator is not money. There's people with no money who have no morals. There's people with lots of money who have poor morals. Money isn't the common denominator. Money just makes you more of who you already are. It gives you like a lot more room to just be more of you. So you want to just look at those stories, and then like I just used to always be like, okay, I'm willing to just see this differently. Like universe, whoever, show me something different. Like what's actually, like, is this story true? No. Everything we feel, it's not a truth. Like you can have your core truths, but these stories aren't true. You're just making them true. Anything you believe to be true will be, right? So you get to rewrite the story in your favor. And I mean, obviously we can go a lot deeper, but I do feel like that's a way to really start. And also, even on like Audible or YouTube, I love hypnosis. There's a meditation on my podcast on episode 11, but about like, I really love, this is a big practice. This is easy that everyone can do, and I do this a lot. So, after you work out or go for a long walk or whatever, your body's really open. That's the time, because you don't have a lot of stories, you feel good, that I like to, and I'll do this with this meditation that's on my podcast or something else that you like to listen to. After I work out, I will literally sit and like listen to this guided visualization about creating my dream life, and let yourself feel the feelings of having it all. And you're in less resistance because you just got all this energy out. And the more you can feel the feelings of what you want, it just starts to feel more real and more real and more real. And that's like stepping you into deeper alignment with it. I've been doing that a lot, and I've been seeing a lot come in. Like I've actually been committed to it, not doing it once a while, but doing it like every other day. And already I'm manifesting more money.
I'm like, episode 11, downloading that right now. But
it's like, so it's like basically setting the desire, looking at the limitations, rewriting the story, practicing religiously, feeling the feelings of more. Then in your normal life, when things show up, you're going to get opportunities to go forward. You might have resistance because it's scary and it's new. I always say meet your resistance with action. This one's huge for me inside my personal process. When like, haven't you had this even in work, you need to say something and you don't?
Yes.
That's always mine.
Yeah.
So say it, right? Like know that that's the universe being like, well, you said you want more, so you need to show you can handle it, right? So meet your resistance with action, and then like go do the scary things, and don't settle into old decision making, you know? So then you live your life that way. If you do all those things, you're going to get somewhere. You're going to get results. And remember that like in the world of manifestation, including with money, everything's connected. So like you stating your boundaries is helping you make more money, because imagine a business 10 times the size of your business. Can you imagine running that with poor boundaries?
No.
I mean, it's literally, have you ever met a successful woman who doesn't have impeccable boundaries?
No, boundaries are, I think, what makes the world go round. Truly.
I love that.
They're huge. Yeah.
So our boundaries communicate to the universe, okay, she's ready to have more, right? So like if we send her all of this, she's not going to crumble. So remember that everything's connected. So it's like how you're living your life everywhere is going to affect your money.
It's almost like oddly the business term, like kiss of death.
What do you mean?
So essentially, I'm trying to give it an example. Like, let's say there's a small like Instagram like boutique or something.
Yeah.
They go viral on TikTok, and then suddenly there's like 10,000 orders, but they're not ready for that.
Exactly.
So it kills the business because they don't have the systems in place.
Exactly.
So it's pretty much that, just in the business term.
It's exactly that. So that's why you see all, you know, the people who win the lotto and then all the millions of dollars are gone in a year.
Yeah.
And how common that story is. Their nervous system is not able to actually hold the energy of the money. So how we talked about the frequency difference, it's like the frequency blew their system out. They're not used to having so much, so they sabotage. They blew way past the upper limit was like, you know, way below that amount of money, so they sabotage. We're looking for sustainable success, sustainable growth without the kiss of death. So yeah, so how you lead your life is going to communicate that you're ready for more.
If someone is kind of where I'm at as far as like manifesting goes, I'm like selfishly asking, but where my kind of experience with manifesting is mainly journaling. I haven't done the like 3 days, 33 times.
Do it.
I
works.
need to do that.
And like do it for months. Don't freak out if like in 30 days. So literally you're like, okay, you say what you want and then by when. But don't freak out if it doesn't happen by then. Then you go back and look at like, okay, well, what were the energies and actions that I was in inside that month? Because as soon as you're aligning with what you want, we're talking mostly about money, and energy and action, you're going to receive it. But that practice helps you keep coming back to what you want consciously. Because, you know, sometimes we'll say we want things and it just drops off the side and we're doing whatever we're doing. It keeps it like at the forefront of your mind. And so you're continuously aligning to it. So don't judge yourself if it doesn't happen in 30 days. Like there were some income levels where, I mean, it took me months to get there. And that's normal. But I got there, and I still got there quickly by bringing intention to it. So then just look at like, okay, well, when I look back over the last month, where was I kind of out of alignment? And was I really putting my energy into this? You know, sometimes we say we want something, but then you go through the seasons of life where you're dead serious about it, and now that feels different.
Yes.
Right? Sometimes we have to get a little more dead serious. But anyway.
Get a little more dead serious.
A little more dead serious.
Wait, so with the 33, like writing it 33 times, should I just be manifesting like one single thing and writing that 33 times? Or what if I'm manifesting like
multiple things?
10 things. So I write each of the, you know what I mean?
I think you would get tired.
Yeah, like I can't, that's a lot, honestly.
I just do one.
Okay.
Usually I just do, mine have always related to money. That's where I've used that practice the most.
I'm going to be doing that.
Just try it. It's fun.
Is there
and
any
really
other...
the visualization after you move your body and just feeling the feelings, and you're going to be like, oh my God, my life gets to get so much bigger.
I have started visualizing in the past few months, and I want to take it a lot more seriously because now that I'm thinking about it, and I naturally, like I do it a lot on walks or like after a walk.
Yeah.
And I just started doing it because I was doing like the 5 a.m. miracle morning routine for a YouTube video like months ago.
Yeah.
But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, so much of that has actually happened too.
It works.
It really does work.
I mean, I've been doing it even this month, and it was so crazy. I was like, so I got a lot more serious. I was like, I'm doing Pilates every day or every other day.
I love Pilates.
We are doing it. We're walking 10,000 steps a day, and we're doing Pilates. Not because like, not even to change how I look, but just to keep my frequency high. You know? And
I'm night and day different when I'm doing Pilates every day.
Me too. You know what? It's just a frequency difference. And I'm saying I want more, right? So we got to like raise the vibes. Not to say that we're not going to have human emotions. We are, and never make those wrong. And it's actually it accelerates your magnetism to allow yourself to process your feelings. when people are very disconnected from how they feel, they actually have a harder time creating because you're just like not integrated. So this isn't to be like you need to be high vibe and positive all the time because you're human. You're going to go through these little seasons or events. But I'm just talking about our overall frequency is high. And I feel different when I work out consistently. Not if I went and tried to run 5 miles every day because that would kill me. But like,
I would be miserable and no one would ever want to be around me.
Exactly. So then I started doing the visualization. And then I just it was so crazy. It was like 2 days into May. I was at 24K. What is it, May 6th now? I looked last night. I'm at 35K in the first 5 days of May. Like, yes, of course, I've had 6-figure months and stuff, but this is really fast.
That's very fast.
And literally the difference is, of course, I've done a lot of internal work and I coach in this and I'm really serious about my healing. But on a day-to-day level, was using my voice in situations where I did not want to, especially in business, committing to my body. And, like, I also bought this gallon water bottle on Amazon. So I'm drinking a gallon of water a day, or aiming to, working out most days of the week, walking, and doing my visualization every day. I do it probably every other day. Granted, this is on top of, like, a business that's already there, etc. But it's doing something. Oh, and I'd been scared. I want to move apartments in New York, which is going to require me to like double for what I want, like double what I spend. So I was feeling a little like, And I was like, girl, it's a Taurus eclipse. Go for it. Because I really like working with whatever astrological and like whatever energy is present on the planet. I move with it. That's also sped up my process a lot. And eclipses are meant to. And we're having a bunch of them this year. But, like, they take things out really fast and they bring things in really fast. So I like to take action inside of them because you're working with the energy that's already on the planet to help you move faster. So I reached out to my broker. I was like, hey, let's go. I'm ready. And then, of course, like, I start making more money.
Yep. That's perfect. I love that for you.
But we can all do it. I'm just using myself as an example.
It's funny you say that. Like, I have just been traveling nonstop for, like, weeks at this point. I love my routine and I love working out, and I haven't been like at my favorite Pilates class and stuff at home. And everything that you're saying right now is like when I was thinking, like, I cannot wait to be home next week and just get my life back together. I will feel so much better, but like literally every single thing that you're listing. Do you know who Bailey Brown is? No. She has this app. Oh my gosh. I mostly work out at home post-pandemic, that I got like retrained. Yes.
And I'm more consistent if I do with the dog and I don't know, life.
I love working out at home.
Me too. So she has an app called Align, and her energy is just so yummy. And she also films in these beautiful places. Her and her boyfriend like are living in Bali right now. Before, she'd always film on the beach in Australia. It's not like studio vibes. You get like a beautiful backdrop of some like bougie pool or the beach or whatever, and she just has such beautiful energy. I really love her workouts.
Okay, I'm downloading.
So even when you're in a hotel or whatever, you can do that. And I bought those, the weights that they make now?
Bala bangles? Yeah,
I have those for my ankles and wrists. And then it's so easy to travel and still get it done.
I love the Bala bangles. I'm
Me
normally
too.
good about working out when I travel too, but it was like festivals and stuff.
Drinking too much.
You're drinking. I got my steps in though, so I did feel good about that. I have my Aura ring, so I always got to check those things. Yeah. Okay, well, this has been absolutely incredible. I could continue to talk to you about so many things.
Oh, thank you.
Where can they find you and listen to your show?
So please come listen to my show. It's Queen Flow, the podcast. I'm very active on Instagram. Thank you. I'm very active on Instagram, jocelyn.kelly.reid. And then all of my work is on my website, jocelynkellyreid.com.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know by giving it a nice thumbs up and subscribe for more.